Hi everyone, this is a comprehensive tutorial for OBS for AMD systems, specifically AMD systems. Now, if you guys are wondering what I mean, let me show you. I'm going to go ahead and launch another window here, and we're just going to make it a blank page, because we don't exactly need it running. Here we are, it's perfect. You guys still got my face, you got the whole OBS setup, you know, the whole thing's all nice and everything like that. So, chat needs to be bottom. Okay, there we go. So, let's go ahead and look at my settings real fast. So, for my output, right, we have MP4 and I have 4 tracks selected. We have our encoder, which is AMD Advanced Media Framework 1920 by, oh, Zombie was on here goofing again, 1080. We're going to apply that. I don't really need to, but why not? So, let me explain it to you in a few general ways. AMD seems to be going with community vote on how exactly everything's working. So they've been partnered with OBS for a while, which is really nice because that means AMD cards are better for streaming, unlike NVIDIA cards. NVIDIA cards, there's a little bit more steps to take before you can get that smooth streaming experience. But let's go ahead and move on. So, first things first is you want to go from a simple output mode to advanced. Why do you want to go from simple to advanced? Well, simply put, if you're in simple mode, you're not going to be able to find everything that you need. But if you go to advanced, you can select exactly what you want, how many tracks you need, and even your encoder type, which is that much better. So, let's go ahead and start like this. Our type needs to be standard. Why does our type need to be standard? Well, whenever you have this custom output, you're dealing with a whole bunch of video bitrate settings that actually don't need to be messed with at all. So you might as well just leave them be and as they are. You guys already know what recording path's for. Generate file names without space. My cat is in my shelf. As well as your recording format. Recording format is extremely useful. Most of the time I keep it on MP4 as it is accepted on most, and I say most very, very spaciously, most editing programs, as well as MOV. Those are the two most common. As well as our audio tracks. Now MP4s can track up to 6 audio tracks. Actually you can track up to 8, but it doesn't have 8 selected. But if you go to, say, FLV, you can only do 1 track for FLV. So, it gave us a little warning. Let's go ahead and put them back. Move back to MP4, and there we go. Now, I know it says MP4 will be unrecoverable. That's not exactly true. You can convert MP4 with online MP4 converters and everything like that. Now, depending on what AMD card you're running will depend on which one of these encoders that you use. You will use H.265 if you have the Fury series or any of their high-end cards. You will use their H.264 if you're doing the lower-end cards. I myself am running an RX 460, so we're going to be running the H.264 in this case. You can rescale your output exactly how you like. My canvas screen is 1920 by 1200 because I have a 24-inch monitor, so I like to rescale it to 1920 by 1080, which is really nice. Now, as I said, AMD is more of a community-based system, so what they end up doing is they have a series of presets that are very, very nice. So, they have default preset, a recording preset, a high quality preset, an indistinguishable preset, I'll get a little more into that later, a lossless preset, a Twitch preset, and a YouTube preset. YouTube preset is normally what we're interested in. Now, as you guys can see, as soon as I selected that, our rate control method disappeared, so I'm going to go ahead and go back to normal. So, our quality preset needs to either be balanced quality, don't do speed, your anti-aliasing will become ridiculous, and then only if you have, now I say this again very lightly, only if you have a hyper-threaded system do you want to use constant bitrate. In this case, I'm running a Xeon that is hyper-threaded, and how you can tell if something is hyper-threaded is you can go to View, Processor Info, and it will pull up what your processor name is under your product ID. In this case, mine's a Xeon X3440, which I overclocked to 4 GHz. Now, on the fact of the 4 GHz part, we're going to be moving on to what this target bitrate is in just a moment. Pre-pass mode, you don't exactly need that because that's just how many passes it does over your screen before it captures your whole screen. So whether it does 1 pass does 2 passes or it does 6 passes, and I will explain why it goes 1, 2 to 6 in a moment as well, instead of 4. Then your bitrate. Bitrates are extremely important. This is determining exactly how much of your computer space area is going to be eaten up. In this case, I'm using the constant bitrate, so my target bitrate needs to be 3500. You should generally go about 500 under what your computer's processor is currently clocked at. Since mine is clocked at 4 gigahertz, I tend to go for 3500, as 4 gigahertz is 4000. Now, the reason you want to clock it here is because that means it will leave 500 for recording, and it will use 3500 for the games, and things as that. At least that's how I like to remember it. I don't know exactly the reasons why that is, but that's what I like to imagine. Now we can go to the keyframe interval, because filler data is definitely something you will need. I'm not even going to tell you to mess with that. If it's disabled, though, go ahead and swap it to enabled. Now for keyframe interval. In keyframe interval, normally it would be 0. There would be nothing there, right? Well, I like to go to keyframe interval, and I actually like to turn it to 2. Now, the reason I turn it to 2 is because that means it will wait 2 seconds on the heads up area, the little box where you can see my screen. This area, I forget I can show you right now. It will actually wait 2 seconds here, or 2 milliseconds, to show you what exactly has been captured, and your audio and everything will automatically be synced. Your view mode should stick with basic, because if you mess with anything else, you're going to get confused really fast. And then last but not least, on your output, whenever you're on recording, you don't want debug checked, because that's just a whole other, that last part of your speed frequency for your CPU that you are actually just using up for no reason. Now, what do I have for my video output settings? Well, as you guys can see here, it's just what your base and output is going to be. And if you have hyperthreading, I would suggest Lanczos, which is sharpened scaling 32 samples. And what that essentially means is I'm going to get no anti-aliasing besides the anti-aliasing in the game. But if I go ahead and I turn it to bicubic, it's still going to be just about the same. It's just there may be anti-aliasing on heavier rendered areas that it has to render. Your common FPS values that's what this area should be, because you can take integer or fractional. If you do fractional, you have exactly how much FPS you can get over a certain fractioned time. So for example, every frame, I want it to be captured every 30 frames. So for 1 frame in my view, 30 frames will be captured on here. Now the files would be a lot bigger, but they would definitely be a lot more detailed, and it would have a lot more to render though. So we're just going to leave this as is, besides me swapping this to 1080, as Zombie has been playing with things on my computer. And hotkeys, you guys should know what hotkeys are. I'm not going to get an explanation of that. Now for audio. Okay. Audio is confusing on these computers in general. So if you want to capture everything where you're getting your headphones, your microphone, and your desktop, I'd suggest just normally selecting your your speakers, right? Or on your, this is for desktop audio devices, I forgot to mention, or where your speakers are coming from. But in this case, I like to separate my audio. So I'm running my Elgato sound capture, which is actually really nice. It's free, right? So you can get it for yourself. And I run my audio from my chats, like Discord, Skype, all that. I run all of that through my Elgato. Since I run it through Elgato sound capture and then it goes in my headphones don't get considered that they need to catch it because it's going through this. So in turn, you're just left with your 2 setups where you can either get just the game, or you can get your friend's audio, or you can get both the audio of your friend and the game, which is very nice in general. Last but not least, you have your microphone, which obviously, you should be selecting your microphone. If you don't, there's something wrong with you. Then there's your general settings, there's your output and everything like that. And then there's advanced. Advanced, you don't need to mess with anything in here. Although what I would suggest is if this is set to 709, turn it to 601 for lower end cards. And if this is set to full for lower end cards, turn it to partial. And then your audio monitoring device is perfectly fine. Never mess with it. Don't mess with your file name formatting. Essentially, don't mess with anything except for your color space and your color range. That is really all you need to work to. Oh, and your color format, but that's only if your color format is I444 or RGB. If it's RGB, it's like nice and everything, but your colors will seem very bland. So in this case, I'm running the NV12, and what is that? That is essentially the internal color processing of my graphics card. And then last but not least, we have our renderer, which is in this case DirectX 3D11. In case you guys don't know what DirectX 3D11 is, it is a binary version off of what our graphics card has installed on it. And DirectX 3D11 is in every graphics card. For NVIDIA, you might get NIV 3D11, but it's the same thing. So you can go ahead and always turn it to that. But if you end up not getting NV 311, DirectX 3D11 will always be there. So there you go. Well, we're going to go ahead and exit out of this, and that has been my basic tutorial on AMD graphics cards. I'll be hitting you guys with an NVIDIA graphics card tutorial later on. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. If you have, please be sure to drop a like. Don't forget to subscribe. It really helps out my channel. And remember, stay sharp. Bye-bye.